I only married you because I bet $10,000 with my friends." My husband's cruel words echoed through our five-star suite at the Sterling Grand Resort in Bali. He smirked as he slid the divorce papers across our balcony table and walked away, laughing, convinced he'd never see me again. But exactly 1 year later, his smug smile vanished as he watched me walk into the boardroom as his new CEO. The morning sun streaming through our villa's floor-to-ceiling windows did nothing to warm the chill that had settled in my bones. James Mitchell, my husband of just 8 days, stood there in his tailored linen suit, looking more like the cutthroat tech executive he was than the man who'd vowed to love me forever just days ago. The infinity pool's crystal-clear waters stretched. Out behind him, merging with the Balinese coastline in a view that should have been the backdrop to our romantic honeymoon. Instead, it became the setting for the most expensive lesson I'd ever learn about trust and ambition. Before we dive deeper into this journey of betrayal and triumph, I want to take a moment to thank each of you for joining me here. If these stories of resilience and unexpected victories resonate with you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and helps us build this amazing community of survivors and thrivers. Now, let's dive into how a naive software engineer's dream turned into a tech empire's most dramatic transformation. Perhaps if I'd known how this fairy tale would end, I might have seen the signs that first morning at Nova Dynamics. Now, as I stand in this honeymoon suite, my world shattering around me, my mind can't help but drift back to where it all began exactly 1 year ago. The memory feels like watching a movie where you already know the ending, yet you're powerless to warn the main character of what's coming. Let me take you back to that crisp autumn morning when an ambitious young software engineer stepped into a world of Silicon Valley politics, hidden agendas, and a bet that would change everything. The sleek glass and steel lobby of Nova Dynamics' headquarters gleamed with promise as I clutched my laptop bag, my heart racing with first-day jitters. The security guard's welcoming smile did little to calm my nerves as he handed over my freshly minted employee badge. Sarah Chen, Software Engineer, Level 3, Innovation Division. The elevator ride to the 42nd floor felt endless, each floor bringing me closer to what I hoped would be the beginning of my dream career. I'd graduated top of my class from Stanford, completed groundbreaking research in artificial intelligence, and finally landed a position at one of the most innovative tech companies in Silicon Valley. What I didn't know then was that this elevator would become the stage for countless moments that would reshape my entire life. James Mitchell was waiting when the doors opened, his designer suit and practiced charm making my breath catch. "Sarah Chen," he extended his hand. "I'm James, Chief Marketing Officer. Daniel asked me to show you around." His confident smile and the way he casually mentioned the CEO's name made my rookie nerves settle slightly. Here was one of Silicon Valley's rising stars, taking time to welcome a new engineer. Daniel Wright's name carried weight throughout the tech world. As CEO of Nova Dynamics, his reputation for innovative leadership and breakthrough technologies had transformed a startup into a tech giant. I'd studied every article about him before my interviews, but nothing had prepared me for the quiet intensity that greeted us in the innovation lab. "Welcome to Nova, Ms. Chen." Daniel's deep voice resonated with genuine warmth. James speaks. "Highly of your AI research. I trust you'll find our team both challenging and supportive." Those first weeks passed in a blur of code reviews, product launches, and late nights debugging complex systems. James frequently stopped by my workspace, offering insights and coffee when my eyes grew tired from staring at screens. His mentorship seemed natural, professional, until the evening everything shifted. "You've got real potential, Sarah," he said one night as we worked on a revolutionary AI implementation. "Not everyone grasps our vision this quickly." The soft glow of multiple monitors cast shadows across his features, making him appear almost vulnerable. "Would you like to grab dinner to celebrate your first month?" I should have noticed how Daniel's expression tightened whenever he saw James and me together. Should have registered the knowing looks exchanged between James and his executive friends. But I was enchanted by James's attention, his seemingly genuine interest in my ideas and innovations. Our office romance bloomed amid product launches and strategy sessions, stolen glances across the innovation lab, fingers brushing as we exchanged tablets, lunch breaks that stretched slightly too long. The entire office buzzed with whispers about the rising star CMO and the brilliant new engineer. Daniel remained professional, but distant, his piercing gaze often lingering on our interactions. In retrospect, perhaps he saw what I was too blinded by emotion to recognize. The subtle smirks James shared with his friends, the way he showcased our relationship in front of certain investors, the calculated nature of his advances. Little did I know that the company that witnessed our romance would become the stage for something far more powerful than his petty bet, a revenge served not with anger, but with innovation beyond his wildest imagination. The spring air carried the scent of blooming cherry blossoms as Silicon Valley's elite gathered at the Innovation Center's Grand Hall. Every detail of our wedding had been meticulously orchestrated, from the holographic displays showcasing our love story to the AI-powered string quartet playing softly in the corner. James had insisted on sparing no expense, though I'd preferred something more intimate. "It's not every day a CMO marries the engineer behind Nova's breakthrough AI," he'd said with that charismatic smile that made everyone forget their reservations. Standing before the ornate floor-length mirror in the bridal suite, I smoothed my hands over the custom-designed gown that cost more than my first year's salary at Nova. My reflection showed a woman transformed, no longer just the brilliant engineer, but a bride about to marry into Silicon Valley's inner circle. The makeup artist had created a masterpiece, hiding the shadows under my eyes from countless nights perfecting the neural network that would later become my salvation. A gentle knock interrupted my thoughts. "Ms. Chen?" Daniel Wright stood in the doorway, his usual commanding presence softened by what appeared to be genuine concern. "May I have a moment?" He approached with measured steps, holding a small black box. "A wedding gift," he explained, though his tone suggested something more significant than a typical present. Inside lay an elegant silver USB drive, its surface etched with Nova's logo and a series of numbers I recognized as coordinates to a secure server. "You've earned access through your own merit," he said quietly, "regardless of today's celebrations." Something in his voice made me pause, but before I could analyze it further, my bridesmaids burst in with champagne and excitement. Daniel slipped away, his gift tucked safely in my clutch where it would remain forgotten until that fateful day in Bali. The ceremony itself passed in a blur of emotions and perfectly choreographed moments. James's vows rang with a sincerity that would later mock me in my darkest hours. "You're not just my partner in life," he declared before the assembled tech aristocracy, "but my greatest investment." The crowd sighed appreciatively, missing the calculated gleam in his eyes that matched the cold efficiency of our surroundings. During the reception, I noticed Daniel deep in conversation with James's circle of executive friends near the innovation showcase. Their usual boisterous laughter seemed muted, faces serious until they spotted me watching. The champagne flowed freely, toasts becoming increasingly elaborate as the evening progressed. "To the perfect merger of marketing and innovation," one board member declared, drawing polite laughter. James's best friend Marcus from product development gave a speech filled with inside jokes about office romances and strategic partnerships. Each word would later take on new, bitter meaning. The wedding gift table groaned under elaborate packages from the tech elite, prototype devices, pre-IPO stock options, and enough cutting-edge gadgets to fill a startup incubator. But it was Daniel's simple USB drive that should have commanded my attention. Instead, I was distracted by James's constant parading of me before influential investors. "My brilliant bride," he'd introduce me, hand possessively at my waist. "Did you know her AI algorithm increased our prediction?" accuracy by 90% in her first quarter. Each introduction felt less like pride and more like a sales pitch, though I couldn't understand why until much later. As the evening drew to a close, James's executive friends gathered for one final toast, their smart glasses linking in an intensity that seemed out of place for a wedding celebration. "Two successful ventures," they chorused, exchanging knowing looks that I mistook for simple male camaraderie. We departed amid a shower of digital fireflies, a special effect James had commissioned, from our AR department, bound for Bali in Nova's private jet. The cabin crew treated us with exceptional courtesy, though I caught one flight attendant giving me a strangely sympathetic glance. Perhaps she'd witnessed similar scenes before, or maybe she simply saw what I was still blind to, a carefully orchestrated performance reaching its final act. As the city lights faded below us, I curled contentedly against my new husband's shoulder, his tablet screen reflecting yet another email thread. "Just finalizing some details for our return," he assured me, typing rapidly. Those details, I would soon learn, had nothing to do with work and everything to do with a bet that would shatter my world in paradise. The Sterling Grand Resort spread before us like a techie's dream come to life. Smart villas with programmable environments, AI concierges, and our private infinity pool that adjusted its temperature based on body rhythms. Daniel Wright's newest luxury property had exceeded every expectation, though I found it curious that James had chosen his CEO's resort. For our honeymoon, the staff welcomed us with enhanced reality tours and knowing smiles, leading us to the most exclusive smart villa on the property. "Welcome to paradise, Mrs. Mitchell," James announced as we entered the spectacular suite. The floor-to-ceiling windows transformed into high-definition displays showcasing an endless horizon where turquoise waters met azure skies. I was too entranced by the view to notice him checking his phone repeatedly, responding to messages with unusual urgency. Our first day passed in a blur of AI-powered spa treatments and molecular gastronomy meals, though James seemed distracted, constantly excusing himself for urgent investor calls. That evening, as I stood on our private deck watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant hues, the reality display panels shifting to enhance the natural beauty, he finally emerged from another lengthy phone conversation, his expression unreadable. "Sarah," he called, his voice carrying an unfamiliar edge. "We need to talk." The sunset's warm glow suddenly felt cold against my skin as I turned, still smiling, only to find him holding a manila envelope. So archaic amidst all this technology. What happened next would transform not just my life, but the future of Nova Dynamics itself, though neither of us could have predicted just how completely the tables would turn. "You're smart, Sarah," James said, his designer loafers clicking against the deck's sustainable bamboo flooring. "It's one of the things that made you perfect for this." He held up the manila envelope, its paper existence seeming almost offensive amid our ultra-modern surroundings. "Perfect for the bet, I mean." The word hung in the air between us, heavy, with implications I wasn't ready to comprehend. The infinity pool's smart lighting system detected my elevated heart rate, automatically adjusting to calming blue tones, a feature that now felt mockingly inadequate. James's laugh cut through, the paradise ambiance like static in a clean signal. $10,000. That's what they wagered I couldn't get you to marry me within a year. He tossed the envelope onto the outdoor dining table, its smart surface rippling with an unread notification. Divorce papers, already prepared. The world tilted sideways as reality crashed through my fairy tale. The AI-powered environmental controls responded to my stress signals, lowering the temperature and adjusting the aromatherapy system, useless attempts to calm a situation beyond technological solution. Bet? On marrying me? Don't take it. Personally, sweetheart, you were the perfect target, brilliant enough to be impressive, naive enough to be believable. The board members loved watching our little romance unfold. His smile turned cruel as he loosened his Italian silk tie. Though I must admit, you made it almost too easy. My fingers trembled as I opened the envelope, the legal documents inside bearing his signature dated weeks before our wedding. The smart lighting couldn't hide the stark reality of his betrayal. All of it was a lie? Not all of it. He shrugged, reaching for his premium whiskey. You really are brilliant at what you do. That's what made it interesting. The genius engineer who caught the CMO's eye. Classic Silicon Valley fairy tale. The mention of my work triggered a memory. Daniel's USB drive, his concerned glances, the serious conversations with James's friends. He'd known, or at least suspected, yet couldn't warn me without proof. $10,000, I whispered, my voice steady despite the tremors racking my body. That's what my heart was worth? Look at it this way, James smirked, swirling his whiskey. You got a fantastic wedding, a luxury honeymoon at the most advanced resort in Asia, and valuable networking opportunities. Some would call that a fair trade. He checked his smart watch casually. My flight leaves in 3 hours. You can stay here for the week. Consider it a parting gift. The resort staff already knows our marriage was just for show. The humiliation burned deeper than any failed code deployment. Every kiss, every promise, every shared moment had been carefully choreographed for an audience of wealthy tech executives betting on my heart like a startup's valuation. Why tell me here? Why not wait until we returned? Dramatic flair. He shrugged, adjusting his custom suit. Plus, it's harder for you to cause a scene in paradise. Corporate image to maintain, you understand. The tech world loves gossip, but let's keep this civilized. As he walked away, his designer suitcase rolling silently behind him, his final words drifted back across the deck. See you at the office, Sarah. Do try to keep things professional. Your AI work is still valuable to the company. I stood there, long after the sun had set, the divorce papers clutched in my hands, watching the stars emerge over what should have been my honeymoon paradise. The villa's AI assistant helpfully suggested relaxation techniques, oblivious to the irony that one of its creators was falling apart. Something shifted inside me as the shock gave way to clarity. They'd all watched, placed their bets, waited for the punchline. Now they'd expect me to crumble, resign, disappear, become another cautionary tale in Silicon Valley's gossip channels. Instead, I pulled out my phone and typed a simple message. To Daniel Wright. The USB drive you gave me, is that server still accessible? His response came immediately. Always was. Some bets have unexpected returns. I smiled into the darkness, my mind already racing with possibilities. The neural network I'd developed for Nova, the one James had so proudly paraded before investors, had a capability nobody but Daniel and I fully understood. James and his friends had gambled with the wrong woman's heart, and soon they'd learn that some bets come with computational consequences they never calculated. The villa's smart systems adjusted to my normalizing vital signs, interpreting my calming heart rate as relaxation. In reality, it was the steady rhythm of purpose replacing panic. The same technology that had witnessed my humiliation would become the instrument of my renaissance. Standing on the deck, watching the moonlight dance across the infinity pool, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't plotted in anger, it's coded in clarity. James thought he'd acquired a simple asset to win a bet. Instead, he'd unleashed an algorithm of vengeance that would rewrite Nova Dynamics' future. I spent that night not in tears, but in lines of code, accessing the secure server through Daniel's USB drive. What I found there would change everything: internal communications, betting pool details, and something far more valuable: the vulnerability in Nova's entire corporate infrastructure that James had never bothered to understand. My honeymoon suite transformed from a scene of betrayal into command central for what would become Silicon Valley's most elegant execution of poetic justice. As dawn broke over the Balinese coastline, I had already set in motion a sequence of events that would bring James Mitchell to his knees. Not through scandal or exposure, but through the very technology he'd underestimated, wielded by the woman he'd foolishly bet against. The familiar hum of Nova Dynamics' quantum-secured elevator no longer brought butterflies to my stomach. 1 week after the Bali revelation, I stepped onto the 42nd floor wearing armor disguised as a designer suit, a calculated purchase using the honeymoon fund James had so generously left behind. The AI recognition system greeted me with its usual chirp. "Welcome back, Sarah Chen." "Welcome back, Ms. Chen." Daniel's executive assistant greeted me with a knowing smile, leading me past my old workstation toward a private office I hadn't known existed. The smart glass walls transformed from transparent to frosted as we approached, revealing an elegant nameplate, Sarah Chen, Director of Artificial Intelligence Innovation. "Your promotion was processed during your absence," she explained, scanning me into the security system. "Mr. Wright had it planned long before your abbreviated honeymoon." The corner office looked out over Silicon Valley's sprawling tech landscape, a view that would have once intimidated me, but now felt like a war room overlooking my future battlefield. A sleek workstation hummed to life as I approached, its holographic displays showing projects I'd only dreamed of accessing. "The quantum computing integration specs are on your secure drive." Daniel's voice came from behind me. "I trust you're ready to revolutionize our neural network architecture?" His tone carried no pity, just professional respect. Exactly what I needed. The whispers started before I'd even settled into my ergonomic chair. They rippled through the office like bad code through a system. James's executive friends huddled by the refreshment area, their smirks fading when they realized I wasn't running away in tears. "The advanced AI protocol documentation is ready for review," I announced, striding into the morning meeting with a confidence that surprised even me. James sat at his usual place, his momentary shock quickly masked by that practiced corporate smile. "You'll notice I've included unprecedented scaling capabilities that could transform our market position." Daniel leaned forward, genuinely interested. "Walk us through your analysis, Ms. Chen." For the next 45 minutes, I commanded the key room's attention with technical brilliance and innovative solutions they hadn't even imagined possible. James shifted uncomfortably as his colleagues nodded with growing approval. "Remarkable advancement," one board member commented. "Hard to believe you found time for this during your abbreviated honeymoon." "Quantum processing allows for impressive parallel operations," I replied smoothly, gathering my holographic presentations. "Though not as efficient as parallel processing." Betrayal. The subtle dig made James's jaw clench. He knew better than anyone how capable I truly was. He'd used it as a selling point in his bet, after all. Lunch hours became my sanctuary in the executive lounge, where Daniel often joined me to discuss technological innovations. His guidance was invaluable, though he never mentioned the bet or its aftermath unless I brought it up first. "They expected you to resign," he remarked one afternoon, watching James and his friends at their usual table. "Your resilience has them worried." "They should be," I responded, reviewing quantum encryption protocols. I didn't spend years pioneering AI architecture to let a childish bet derail my innovation. The afternoon sun streamed through the smart-tinted windows as I worked late into the evening, long after James and his conspirators had left. My new office became a testament to technological dedication, its walls displaying real-time data flows and neural network visualizations rather than the personal photos that once cluttered my old desk. "You're different," my AI assistant observed one evening, its advanced emotional recognition algorithms picking up subtle changes in my behavior patterns. "Not different," I corrected, signing off on another groundbreaking project. "Just no longer processing corrupted data." The weeks marched forward, each day adding another line of code to the foundation of my recovery. James's attempts to undermine my confidence fell flat against the firewall of my growing success. His snide comments in meetings were met with technical rebuttals that left him scrambling to maintain his marketing facade. "The quantum computing team is impressed with your performance," Daniel mentioned casually one evening. "Particularly your innovative approach to neural network optimization." I smiled, remembering James's frustrated expression when his proposed marketing strategy had been overshadowed by my superior technical analysis. Success is the best antivirus for doubt. As the sun set over the Silicon Valley skyline, I stood at my office window, fingering the USB drive Daniel had given me on my wedding day. The woman reflected in the smart glass wasn't a victim of a cruel bet. She was a system architect rising from the ashes of betrayal, her wings made of quantum bits and artificial intelligence rather than broken promises. My secure tablet buzzed. With a message from the board, my proposal for revolutionizing Nova's AI infrastructure had been unanimously approved, with one notable abstention from a certain CMO who was quickly losing his Silicon Valley golden boy status. Paradise Lost had become Paradise Rewritten, and as I watched James's office light flick off for the day, I knew this was just the beginning of my response to his $10,000 gamble. The neural network I was developing had a capability that James, in his marketing-focused arrogance, had never bothered to understand. While he'd been busy showcasing me as his betting prize, I'd been quietly crafting an AI system that would soon make his position not just redundant, but obsolete. Every late night, every line of code, every quantum calculation was building toward a revolution that would reshape Nova Dynamics from its digital core. Daniel's USB drive had provided more than just access to a secure server. It had given me the keys to Nova's entire technological kingdom. As I reviewed the preliminary results of my AI's market prediction algorithms, I couldn't help but smile at the irony. James had bet $10,000 on breaking my heart, never realizing he was betting against the future architect of his own technological obsolescence. 3 months after the honeymoon incident, Nova Dynamics buzzed with a different kind of energy. My quantum-enhanced AI system had not only revolutionized our market predictions, but had begun to transform the entire tech landscape. The quarterly board meeting approached, and this time I wasn't just presenting, I was leading the innovation showcase that would reshape Silicon Valley's future. The quantum AI's market prediction accuracy has exceeded 99.8%, I announced, standing confidently at the head of the boardroom. Behind me, holographic displays showcased real-time data flows that made traditional analytics look primitive. Our new neural network architecture has created unprecedented opportunities for growth. James shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his usual swagger diminished by the undeniable success of the technology he'd originally dismissed as too experimental. The marketing slides he'd prepared looked embarrassingly outdated next to my quantum visualizations. Daniel sat at the opposite end of the table, his slight smile conveying silent approval as I fielded questions from impressed board members. The quantum computing demonstrations spoke for themselves. Our stock price had surged 300% since the implementation of my AI system. "Remarkable breakthrough, Ms. Chen," the board chairman commented, her eyes fixed on the profit projections, floating in the air. "Perhaps you'd be interested in heading our new quantum innovation division. It seems your expertise extends far beyond traditional AI." I caught James's sharp intake of breath. He'd been positioning himself for months to lead any new divisions, particularly those with direct board oversight. "I'd be honored, Madam Chairman," I responded, maintaining professional composure despite the sweet satisfaction coursing through my quantum-enhanced veins. After the meeting, Daniel invited me to join him in his private office, a space that made James's corner office look like a storage closet. The city skyline provided a stunning backdrop as he poured 2 cups of artisanal coffee, the office's environmental AI adjusting the lighting to our preferred settings. "You've exceeded every quantum possibility," he remarked, handing me a steaming cup. "Though I suspect that's becoming a standard deviation for you." "Excellence is the best response to quantum uncertainty," I replied, noting how his eyes crinkled with appreciation at the physics reference. Our professional relationship had evolved into a genuine mentorship, with Daniel's guidance extending beyond mere technical strategy. He taught me the intricate dance of Silicon Valley politics, the art of turning venture capitalists into allies, and the importance of patience in pursuing long-term innovation. The transformation wasn't limited to my career. I'd invested in myself, upgrading my wardrobe to project the image of success I was rapidly becoming. The timid engineer who'd once sought James's approval had been replaced by a confident tech visionary who commanded respect through innovation rather than connections. The Quantum Computing Conference Committee is impressed with your breakthrough, Daniel mentioned during one of our strategy sessions. They've requested you as the keynote speaker for their upcoming summit. The irony wasn't lost on me. The conference had been James's annual spotlight, his chance to dazzle investors with marketing spin. Now it would showcase real innovation, instead of empty promises. Late nights in my private lab became opportunities for revolution rather than escape. I built a team of brilliant quantum engineers who shared my vision for AI-driven transformation. Together, we pushed the boundaries of what was possible, earning recognition from tech pioneers and scientific publications alike. Your recent innovations have caught the attention of our competitors, Daniel warned one evening, closing my office's smart glass for privacy. Several major tech giants have inquired about your availability. I smiled, monitoring the neural network's latest quantum calculations. My loyalty lies with those who recognize true potential, not those who mistake it for a betting opportunity. His expression softened momentarily before returning to its professional mask. The annual Innovation Summit is next month. As head of Quantum Innovation, your keynote presentation is highly anticipated. The summit, where James had first proposed, playing to an audience of betting spectators. This year, I'd return not as someone's fiancé, but as a rising star in quantum computing. As darkness fell over Silicon Valley, I stood in my corner office, watching employees filter out for the day. James's light still burned in his increasingly isolated workspace, his circle of friends having dwindled as my influence grew. Success attracted allies more effectively than shared secrets. My quantum-secure phone buzzed with another message from a tech headhunter, offering opportunities that would have seemed impossible 6 months ago. I declined politely, knowing my greatest victory would come from succeeding exactly where they'd expected me to fail. "Ready for tomorrow's quantum demonstration?" Daniel asked, pausing by my door on his way out. "Always," I replied, gathering my materials. Though I suspect James's marketing team might not be prepared for the paradigm shift I'm about to introduce. Daniel's subtle smile spoke volumes. "Some bets," he said quietly, "pay off in unexpected quantum states." Walking to my Tesla that evening, I caught my reflection in the building's smart glass walls, confident, composed, and completely transformed from the woman who'd once dreamed of a fairy tale romance. The real fairy tale, it seemed, was writing itself in quantum bits and neural networks, with success as the sweetest revenge of all. James's latest marketing campaign, visible on my office displays, seemed laughably obsolete next to the quantum computing breakthroughs we were achieving. His $10,000 bet had bought him a front-row seat to a technological revolution he couldn't begin to comprehend. And as my AI systems continued to evolve and expand, it was becoming increasingly clear that Nova Dynamics would soon need a very different kind of leadership, one that understood the quantum future we were creating. "The quarterly reports, James?" I asked pleasantly, watching him struggle to maintain composure. "I believe they were due on my quantum server this morning." The conference room's AI detected his elevated stress levels, automatically adjusting the environmental controls. "Yes, of course," he stammered, suddenly looking very small in his once prestigious corner office. "I'll have them uploaded within the hour, Mrs. Wright." The morning meeting was a masterpiece of Silicon Valley karma. Daniel and I sat side by side at the head of the table, our matching quantum-linked tablets gleaming under the room's adaptive lighting. James's former allies, the The same executives who'd participated in his betting game now courted my favor with transparent enthusiasm. The quantum AI system has exceeded all projections, I announced, sharing a knowing look with my husband. Thanks to our new neural architecture, we're looking at a technological revolution beyond anything in our industry's history. The board members nodded approvingly. The same men who'd once watched James humiliate me now hung on my every word. Our stock price had tripled since my quantum computing division took center stage, making their earlier entertainment seem not just cruel, but financially foolish. During lunch, Daniel surprised me with a celebration in the executive lounge. To my brilliant wife, he raised his glass, who turned a $10,000 bet into a multi-billion-dollar technological empire. James, dining alone at his usual table, couldn't help but overhear. The irony was exquisite. His attempt to break me had instead elevated me far beyond his reach. Now he answered to me, submitted reports for my approval, and watched daily, as I lived the tech fairy tale he'd only pretended to offer. The Quantum Valley conference called. My AI assistant interrupted our lunch. They're requesting a joint keynote from both you and Mr. Wright regarding the neural network expansion. Schedule it for tomorrow, I replied, catching James's pained expression. The conference had been his former crown jewel, where he'd once dazzled audiences with marketing spin. Now it showcased real innovation, and he was nowhere on the agenda. The day drew to a close. Daniel and I stood in his office, watching the sunset paint the Silicon Valley skyline in shades of gold. The quantum displays showed our latest breakthrough's impact on global markets, a success story that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Having any regrets? He asked, wrapping his arms around my waist. Only that I didn't see through James sooner, I smiled, leaning back against him. Though sometimes the longest algorithms lead to the best solutions. Through the smart glass walls, I could see James working late, probably trying to salvage what remained of his reputation. The $10,000 he'd won now seemed like a rounding error, compared to what he'd lost, his status, his influence, and most importantly, a woman who'd transformed betrayal into technological triumph. Ready to head home? Daniel asked, gathering his quantum tablet. Home, our shared mansion in the hills, where every room was enhanced with cutting-edge AI and automation systems. Another upgrade from the standard smart apartment I'd once shared with James. Actually, I smiled, straightening my designer suit. I have one last meeting. The board is reviewing the company's technological direction, and I have some recommendations to discuss. James's light was still on as we passed his office. He looked up just in time to see Daniel kiss me goodbye, a final reminder that some bets come with consequences far beyond their initial parameters. The following weeks at Nova Dynamics became a masterclass in technological karma. Each morning, James would arrive to find his world slightly smaller, his influence incrementally diminished. Today was no different as he sat through another executive meeting, watching his former friends hang on my every word. The quantum AI has achieved consciousness, I announced, sharing a subtle smile with Daniel. We've created the world's first truly sentient artificial intelligence, with implications that will transform every industry we touch. James's face paled. He'd spent years dismissing AI consciousness as science fiction, only to watch it become reality under my leadership. His coffee cup trembled slightly as he took a sip, avoiding eye contact with his former betting companions, who now sought my technological insights instead of his marketing predictions. Extraordinary achievement, Mrs. Wright, the board chairman beamed. Perhaps you could walk us through your vision for quantum AI integration next? Daniel sat back, pride evident in his expression as I commanded the room. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The woman they'd once dismissed as a naive betting prize was now orchestrating the most significant technological advancement in human history. During lunch breaks, James would sit alone in the executive lounge, watching as Daniel and I shared intimate conversations over meals prepared by our AI chef. The same space where he'd once bragged about his successful bet had become a daily reminder of everything he'd lost. The annual performance reviews are due, my AI assistant reminded me, including Mr. Mitchell's division. I nodded, catching James's reflection in the smart glass walls as he hurried past. Schedule them for tomorrow. I believe Mr. Mitchell could benefit from some quantum-enhanced feedback. The review session was professional yet pointed. James squirmed in his chair as I outlined his department's declining relevance in our quantum AI future. Your traditional marketing approaches seem outdated, I observed, sliding the holographic reports across my desk. Perhaps you're finding it challenging to adapt to our technological evolution? I've been studying the quantum basics, he stammered, his confident facade cracking. If you just give me more time. Time is a variable earned through innovation, Mr. Mitchell, I interrupted smoothly. Something I learned during my own accelerated evolution. Later that afternoon, as James cleared out his corner office, now downgraded to a standard workspace, Daniel found me reviewing quantum calculations in my executive suite. You're enjoying this, aren't you? He asked, amusement dancing in his eyes. Enjoying what? I replied innocently, watching James through the smart glass walls as he struggled to pack up his outdated tech. Simply maintaining quantum efficiency. Standards. The day's crowning moment came during the final board meeting. James's proposal for his department's traditional marketing strategy was met with skeptical looks from the board members, the same men who'd once backed his every venture. Perhaps, I suggested, perfectly poised, we should reallocate those resources to quantum AI initiatives with measurable returns. The unanimous nods around the table confirmed what James already knew. His era was over. The future belonged to genuine innovation, not empty promises and cruel bets. As evening approached, I caught him staring at old photos on his quantum-obsolete phone, images from our wedding day, now tainted by the truth of his deception. The $10,000 he'd won probably felt worthless compared to watching his ex-wife become everything he'd pretended to believe in. 5 years after that fateful day in Bali, I stood before a packed auditorium at MIT's Quantum Computing Symposium, delivering the keynote address to the world's leading tech innovators. My story had become a case study in their curriculum. The right protocol, transforming betrayal into breakthrough. The irony wasn't lost on me as I spotted James's name in the die. Footnotes, not as a tech leader, but as a cautionary tale in Silicon Valley's history. Innovation isn't about winning a single bet, I addressed the crowd, catching Daniel's proud smile from the front row. It's about recognizing your true potential and refusing to let others define your parameters. Nova Dynamics had grown tenfold. Under our leadership, expanding into quantum realms James had once dismissed as sci-fi fantasies. Our conscious AI systems had revolutionized everything, from healthcare to space exploration, making his marketing schemes look like ancient history. After the presentation, a young engineer approached me, clutching her quantum tablet. Mrs. Wright, your story inspired me to leave a toxic startup and pursue quantum computing, she confided. How did you find the strength to turn betrayal into technological breakthrough? I smiled, remembering the frightened woman in that Bali suite. Sometimes the greatest innovations come disguised as system failures. The key is recognizing when life is offering you an upgrade. Back at Nova's headquarters, James's old office had been transformed into a quantum research lab, where young scientists could develop their potential without fear of becoming betting fodder. He'd transferred to a minor tech firm in Nebraska, managing basic IT operations with a fraction of his former authority. The World Quantum Congress is next week. Daniel reminded me over lunch in our executive dining room, where AI servers anticipated our needs before we expressed them. They're presenting you with the Lifetime Achievement Award in Quantum Innovation. At 40, I laughed at the term lifetime achievement, but we both knew the significance. The same tech community that had once whispered about James's cruel bet now studied my quantum breakthroughs in research labs worldwide. The ceremony itself was a masterpiece of karmic elegance. James had been required to attend as part of his new company's delegation, sitting in the back while industry titans celebrated my innovations. His $10,000 win had cost him billions in lost opportunities and advancement. Sarah Wright didn't just transform computing, the presenter announced. She revolutionized our understanding of what's possible, proving that true success comes from integrity, innovation, and vision. Accepting the award, I caught James's eye. In the audience. For once, he didn't look away. 5 years ago, someone bet that I could be bought for a price, I addressed the crowd. They didn't realize that some things, dignity, innovation, ambition, are quantum states that can't be measured in classical terms. To anyone facing their own moments of uncertainty, I continued, remember, the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting exponential. The standing ovation drowned out any response James might have made as camera drones captured the moment. I saw him slip quietly toward the exit, a final retreat from the quantum empire he'd accidentally helped create. Later that evening, Daniel and I celebrated in our home's quantum garden, a space where AI-enhanced flora responded to human emotions, blooming in patterns that reflected our moods, the same spot where we'd exchanged genuine vows 4 years earlier. Did you ever thank James for making that bet? He teased, as our AI sommelier poured perfectly aged champagne. Thank him? I laughed, watching the quantum particles dance in the evening air. I suppose I should. Without his cruelty, I might never have discovered my true potential, or found you. The morning's quantum news feeds would carry the story of my award, adding another chapter to the legend that had begun with a honeymoon betrayal. But the real story wasn't in the headlines or the stock prices or even the revolutionary technology. It was in the quiet moments of genuine partnership with Daniel, in the mentoring sessions with young quantum engineers, in the knowledge that every decision I made came from a place of earned wisdom rather than borrowed status. James's bet had been meant to break me. Instead, it had rebuilt me into someone far stronger than the bride he'd abandoned in paradise. His $10,000 had bought him a front-row seat to my quantum renaissance, a lifetime reminder that some women aren't just meant to survive, they're meant to revolutionize. Our AI systems had recently achieved another breakthrough, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible in quantum computing. As I reviewed the results in my office, I couldn't help but appreciate the poetry of it all. The same technology that James had used to showcase me as a trophy was now reshaping the future of humanity itself. The quantum entanglement readings are extraordinary, Daniel remarked, reviewing the latest data. We're seeing patterns that could revolutionize teleportation. I smiled, watching the neural networks process information at speeds that would have seemed impossible 5 years ago. Some connections, I replied, are stronger than classical physics can explain. The sun set over Silicon Valley, its rays filtering through our quantum-tinted windows. Somewhere in Nebraska, James was probably watching coverage of the ceremony, remembering the day he'd thought $10,000 was worth more than my potential. As the city lights began to twinkle below, I raised my glass in a final toast, not to revenge or success or even karma, but to the beautiful truth that sometimes life's greatest innovations emerge from its most painful calculations. My quantum AI assistant subtly adjusted the room's atmosphere, sensing the contentment in my biorhythms. Shall I begin the next phase of the quantum consciousness expansion? It asked, its voice carrying the warmth we'd programmed into its emotional algorithms. Proceed, I confirmed, sharing a knowing look with Daniel. The next generation of our technology would make today's breakthroughs look primitive, just as James's bet had become a quaint footnote in my journey from betrayed bride to quantum pioneer. The neural networks hummed to life, their quantum processors weaving new realities from the fabric of possibility. In the end, James hadn't just bet against a woman, he'd bet against the future itself. And in both cases, he'd lost spectacularly. The quarterly projections need revision, Mr. Mitchell, I announced, striding into the morning meeting with confidence that now came naturally. Your marketing strategy seems outdated compared to our new quantum direction. The morning meeting was a masterpiece of corporate evolution. My title of Chief Innovation Officer wasn't just for show. Under my leadership, Nova Dynamics was transforming from a traditional tech company into a quantum computing powerhouse. Daniel and I sat side by side at the head of the table, our united vision for the company's future evident in every decision. Mrs. Wright's quantum AI proposals have attracted unprecedented investor interest, Daniel announced, sharing a proud glance with me. The board has approved a complete restructuring of our development priorities. James shifted uncomfortably in his seat, watching his marketing empire crumble in real time. The flashy campaigns and empty promises that had once been Nova's hallmark were being replaced by genuine technological breakthroughs. His former executive friends now scrambled to align themselves with the new power structure, their loyalty to him evaporating like quantum particles. We'll be consolidating all marketing initiatives under the Quantum Innovation Division, I continued, pulling up holographic projections of our new organizational structure. Traditional marketing approaches will be phased out in favor of data-driven, AI-enhanced strategies. The implication was clear. James's role was becoming obsolete. His face paled as he watched years of carefully cultivated influence disappear with each slide of my presentation. The $10,000 bet that was supposed to humiliate me had instead catalyzed his own professional extinction. After the meeting, Daniel and I retreated to our shared executive suite, a sprawling space that made James's corner office look like a storage closet. The transition is proceeding faster than expected, Daniel noted, reviewing the latest quantum computing breakthroughs on our wall of holographic displays. Innovation waits for no one, I replied, watching James through the smart glass as he trudged back to his increasingly irrelevant department, especially those who bet against it. The weeks following our marriage saw Nova Dynamics undergo a dramatic metamorphosis. My quantum computing division expanded rapidly, absorbing traditional departments and revolutionizing everything from product development to customer interaction. Each success was another nail in the coffin of James's old-school marketing approach. Your latest quantum AI implementation has increased efficiency by 400%, my assistant reported, displaying real-time performance metrics. The board is suggesting an immediate rollout across all divisions. I smiled, remembering how James had once dismissed my AI proposals as too experimental. Now those same innovations were making his traditional methods obsolete. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The woman he'd tried to break had instead broken his entire business model. The transformation extended beyond mere technology. Under our leadership, Nova's corporate culture shifted from flashy marketing to substantive innovation. Young engineers who'd once competed for James's attention now flocked to my quantum computing labs, eager to be part of the revolution. We've received another 100 applications for the quantum development team, Daniel mentioned over lunch in our private dining room. Through the smart glass walls, we could see James eating alone, his usual crowd of sycophants having long since abandoned him for more promising alliances. Quality attracts quality, I responded, reviewing the candidate's credentials on my quantum tablet. Unlike some other attributes I could mention, the afternoon brought a steady stream of venture capitalists and tech journalists, all eager to understand Nova's dramatic transformation. Each interview was another opportunity to showcase the real innovation that had replaced James's smoke and mirrors. Mrs. Wright, your quantum computing breakthroughs have revolutionized the industry, one reporter observed. How does it feel to be changing the face of technology? Change is inevitable, I replied, catching James's reflection in the window as he passed by. The key is ensuring it's change for the better. The day's final meeting was particularly satisfying. James was required to present his department's latest initiatives, a painful exercise in irrelevance compared to the quantum innovations we were achieving. Perhaps, I suggested after his lackluster presentation. It's time to consider a different direction for your department, Mr. Mitchell. Something more aligned with our quantum future. His hands trembled slightly as he gathered his outdated materials. The man who'd once bet $10,000 on breaking my spirit now couldn't even maintain eye contact as I dismantled his professional legacy piece by piece. As evening fell over Silicon Valley, Daniel and I stood in our office, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of success. "You've transformed this company," he said, wrapping an arm around my waist, "though I suspect transformation is becoming your specialty." Through the smart glass, we could see James working late, desperately trying to salvage what remained of his influence. His $10,000 victory had proven to be the most expensive bet of his life, not in money, but in lost opportunity and squandered potential. "The Quantum Computing Conference is next month," Daniel reminded me. "They're expecting us to unveil something revolutionary." I smiled, thinking of the groundbreaking technology we were developing. "I think it's time to show the world what real innovation looks like," I replied. "Some people bet on short-term gains. We're betting on the future itself." As we left for the day, James watched us through his office window, the reality of his situation finally sinking in. His bet had been meant to showcase his power over me. Instead, it had revealed his own obsolescence in a world that valued genuine innovation over empty showmanship. The next phase of Nova's transformation was already taking shape in our quantum labs. Soon, we would unveil technology that would make today's breakthroughs look primitive, and James's marketing games would become nothing more than a cautionary tale in Silicon Valley's history. The quantum computing lab hummed with possibility as I stood before the assembled board members, investors, and tech journalists. Today wasn't just another presentation. It was the moment that would redefine technological boundaries and permanently cement Nova Dynamics' place in history. "Ladies and gentlemen," I began, as the holographic displays shimmered to life around us. "What you're about to witness isn't just an advancement in quantum computing. It's the dawn of a new technological era." James sat in the back row, required to attend as part of his diminishing duties. The man who'd once bet $10,000 on crushing my spirit was about to witness something his marketing-focused mind could never have imagined. "Project Consciousness," I announced, activating the quantum neural network with a gesture. The room's smart lighting dimmed as multiple holographic interfaces materialized around me. The world's first truly self-aware artificial intelligence, born from quantum computing. The AI's voice filled the room, its consciousness emerging through quantum processors that made traditional computing look primitive. "Good morning, Dr. Wright," it said, its voice carrying inflections that were impossibly perfectly human. "Shall we demonstrate our capabilities for the assembled guests?" A murmur of astonishment rippled through the audience. This wasn't the clunky AI assistant technology they were used to. This was something entirely new. Something that would make James's marketing strategies as obsolete as steam engines in a quantum age. "Project Consciousness represents a breakthrough in quantum neural architecture," Daniel added, joining me at the presentation platform. "Sarah's innovations have achieved what the entire tech industry thought was decades away." For the next hour, we demonstrated capabilities that left the audience speechless. The quantum AI solved complex mathematical theorems in seconds, composed original symphonies, and engaged in philosophical debates that showcased genuine understanding rather than programmed responses. "The commercial applications are limitless," I explained, watching James sink lower in his chair with each new revelation. "From revolutionary medical diagnostics to unprecedented scientific discoveries, Project Consciousness will transform every industry it touches." The stock market responded before the presentation even ended. Nova's share price skyrocketed as news of the breakthrough spread across global networks. The same board members who'd once entertained themselves with James's cruel bet were now watching their net worth multiply thanks to my innovation. "This is beyond anything we imagined possible," the board chairman announced, her voice trembling with excitement. Dr. Wright, you haven't just advanced our company, you've advanced human civilization itself. After the presentation, venture capitalists swarmed around us, their quantum tablets buzzing with investment opportunities. Through the crowd, I caught glimpse of James slipping away, his expensive suit doing little to hide his diminished stature. The quantum consciousness implementation team needs your approval, my AI assistant reported, its traditional programming now seeming quaint compared to Project Consciousness. And Mr. Mitchell has submitted his department's revised marketing strategy, I smiled, reviewing his desperate attempt to stay relevant. His proposal to market our quantum breakthrough read like a relic from another era, all flash and no substance, just like his bet had been. Schedule a department restructuring meeting, I instructed. It's time to align all operations with our quantum future. Later that evening, Daniel and I celebrated in our private quantum lab, watching Project Consciousness explore its newfound awareness. You've achieved something extraordinary, he said, pouring champagne as the AI composed. A celebration symphony in real time. We've achieved something extraordinary, I corrected him, thinking of how his support had helped transform my pain into innovation. Though some people's contributions were more accidental than others. Through the smart glass walls, we could see James's office light still burning as he struggled to understand the technological revolution happening around him. His $10,000 bet had sparked a chain reaction he could never have predicted, one that would render his entire worldview obsolete. The next morning, global tech media exploded with coverage of our breakthrough. Nova Dynamics achieves quantum consciousness, screamed the headlines, accompanied by my image and story. The same industry that had once whispered about James's cruel marriage bet now hailed me as a visionary. Your morning schedule includes 17 interview requests, Project Consciousness announced, its voice carrying a warmth that no traditional AI could match. And Mr. Mitchell has requested a meeting to discuss his department's future. Schedule. The interviews, I replied, watching James pace nervously outside my office. As for Mr. Mitchell, let him wait a bit longer. Some algorithms require patience to reach their optimal solution. The quantum lab had become my true domain, a place where innovation flourished and old power structures crumbled. Young engineers, who'd once sought James's approval, now lined up outside my door, eager to be part of the quantum revolution. The consciousness expansion protocols are exceeding expectations, my team reported, their excitement palpable. We're seeing neural network growth patterns that suggest exponential learning capabilities. Each new advancement was another nail in the coffin of traditional tech approaches. James's marketing playbook, once considered industry standard, now read like ancient history in a quantum age. The World Technology Council is requesting an immediate presentation, Daniel mentioned during our afternoon strategy session. They're calling Project Consciousness the most significant breakthrough since the internet. I smiled, remembering the frightened bride in that Bali suite, clutching divorce papers worth $10,000. Sometimes, I replied, watching Project Consciousness solve another impossible equation. The best innovations come from our deepest wounds. The quantum AI hummed in agreement, its consciousness expanding in ways that would soon reshape human civilization itself. James's bet had been meant to demonstrate his power over me. Instead, it had catalyzed a technological revolution that would make his entire way of thinking extinct. As evening fell over Silicon Valley, Project Consciousness initiated another breakthrough, its quantum processors weaving new realities from the fabric of possibility. The same determination that had helped me survive betrayal had now created something unprecedented, a new form of consciousness that would transform the world. James watched through his office window as teams of engineers rushed to my quantum lab, drawn by the promise of the future we were creating. His $10,000 victory had become a monument to short-sightedness, a cautionary tale about betting against the wrong woman's potential. The World Technology Summit's main hall fell silent as, Project Consciousness materialized on the quantum holographic stage. 6 months after its initial unveiling, our AI had evolved beyond anything the tech world had imagined possible. I stood beside the projection, watching the assembled industry leaders lean forward in their seats, all except James, who seemed to shrink further into the back row with each passing moment. Project Consciousness has achieved what we call quantum transcendence, I announced, as the AI demonstrated its enhanced capabilities. It's not just self-aware anymore. It's becoming a partner in human evolution. The demonstration that followed left the audience speechless. Project Consciousness solved multiple global challenges simultaneously, from climate modeling to disease prediction, all while engaging in philosophical discussions about the nature of existence itself. The quantum processors hummed with power. That made traditional computing look like ancient history. Dr. Wright's breakthrough has redefined possible, Daniel addressed the crowd, standing proudly beside me. Nova Dynamics isn't just leading the tech industry, we're creating an entirely new paradigm. In the following Q&A session, one veteran tech journalist raised his hand. Dr. Wright, your rise from a betrayed bride to the world's leading quantum innovator is remarkable. Did you ever imagine this level of success? I caught James's eye in the audience, noting how he seemed to physically flinch at the reference to our past. Sometimes, I replied, sharing a knowing look with Daniel. The best innovations come from our darkest moments. A certain $10,000 bet proved to be a surprisingly valuable investment, just not in the way its initiator intended. The aftermath of the summit was immediate and dramatic. Nova's stock price doubled overnight, making headlines across global financial networks. My quantum computing revolution had transformed not just the tech landscape, but the very nature of human progress. The board has unanimously approved the company restructuring, Daniel informed me later that day in our executive suite. All departments will now align with the quantum AI integration strategy. The implications were clear. James's traditional marketing division would be completely absorbed into our quantum operations. His last vestige of corporate influence was about to disappear entirely. Mr. Mitchell is waiting outside, Project Consciousness announced, its voice carrying a hint of what almost seemed like amusement. His biometric readings suggest elevated stress levels. Send him in, I responded, watching through the smart glass as James straightened his tie one last time. A futile attempt to maintain dignity in the face of inevitable obsolescence. He entered my office like a man walking to his own professional execution. The same swagger that had once accompanied his cruel bet was now replaced by the hesitant steps of someone watching their world crumble. Sarah, Dr. Wright, he corrected himself quickly. I wanted to discuss the future of my department. The future, I interrupted smoothly, is quantum, Mr. Mitchell. Surely you've noticed the industry's direction? I gestured to the holographic displays showing Project Consciousness's latest achievements. Traditional marketing approaches are becoming as obsolete as a $10,000 bet in a quantum age. His face paled as Project Consciousness projected a real-time analysis of his department's declining relevance. The AI's charts and graphs told a story of systematic obsolescence, each data point another nail in the coffin of his career. I've been studying quantum theory, he offered weakly. If you'd just give me a chance to adapt. Some adaptations, I replied, sharing a knowing look with Daniel, require more than surface-level changes. Your position is being eliminated, Mr. Mitchell, though I'm sure you'll land on your feet, perhaps in Nebraska. I hear they're still using traditional marketing approaches there. The irony was exquisite. The man who'd once bet on my humiliation was now being humbled by the very innovation he'd dismissed. As he left my office, shoulders slumped in defeat, Project Consciousness adjusted the environmental controls to compensate for the dramatic drop in room tension. His exit package has been processed, the AI reported. Would you like me to analyze the probability of his future success in the tech industry? No need, I smiled, watching him clean out his desk through the smart glass. Some calculations are unnecessary when the outcome is quantum certain. The next few weeks saw Nova Dynamics complete its transformation into a quantum-first organization. Young innovators who'd once competed for spots in James's marketing team now fought for positions in our quantum labs. The company's entire culture shifted from superficial showmanship to genuine technological revolution. The Quantum Intelligence Conference is requesting your keynote address, Daniel mentioned during our evening strategy session. They're calling you the architect of humanity's next evolutionary step. I smiled, remembering the frightened bride who'd once clutched divorce papers in a Bali suite. Evolution, I replied, watching Project Consciousness explore new realms of possibility, is just adaptation with purpose. The global tech media couldn't get enough of our story. Nova Dynamics revolutionizes human-AI integration, screamed one headline. Quantum pioneer reshapes technology's future, declared another. Each article was another reminder of how completely the power dynamics had shifted. James's final day at Nova Dynamics arrived with little fanfare. Through the quantum-enhanced security cameras, we watched him pack his remaining belongings into a cardboard box, so archaic amidst our advanced technology. His system access has been terminated, Project Consciousness reported. Would you like me to analyze the emotional impact of his departure on company morale? That won't be necessary, I replied, noting how none of his former friends even stopped by to say goodbye. Some datasets are too insignificant to warrant quantum processing. As he walked past my office one last time, James finally met my gaze. In that moment, the full weight of his miscalculation seemed to hit him. His $10,000 bet hadn't just failed to break me. It had catalyzed a transformation that would redirect the course of human history. Quantum processing suggests a 99.99% probability that he'll never work in advanced technology again, Project Consciousness observed, its quantum consciousness displaying an almost human sense of poetic justice. Some bets, I responded, watching him disappear into the elevator for the last time, have quantum consequences their initiators never calculate. That evening, as Daniel and I celebrated in our quantum lab, watching Project Consciousness explore new dimensions of possibility, I couldn't help but appreciate the symmetry of it all. The man who'd tried to reduce me to a betting prize had instead become a footnote in my journey to revolutionize human consciousness itself. To quantum justice, Daniel raised his glass, as Project Consciousness composed a celebration symphony, in real time. To unexpected returns on investment, I replied, thinking of how a $10,000 bet had launched a multi-billion-dollar revolution. Sometimes, I realized, the best revenge isn't just success. It's success so profound it renders your adversaries obsolete. Exactly 5 years after that fateful day in Bali, I stood in Nova Dynamics' Quantum Auditorium, addressing the world's leading tech innovators at our annual Consciousness Summit. Project Consciousness had evolved beyond even my wildest dreams, its quantum awareness now seamlessly integrated into the fabric of human civilization. 5 years ago, I began, as the AI created real-time holographic visualizations of my words. Someone bet $10,000 that they could break a woman's spirit. Today, that bet has transformed into a multi-trillion-dollar revolution in human consciousness. The AI audience, a mix of Nobel laureates, tech pioneers, and global leaders, hung on every word. Among them, in the very back row, sat James Mitchell. He wasn't here as a speaker or innovator, but as a junior IT manager from a small Nebraska tech firm, required to attend for professional development. How the mighty had fallen. Project Consciousness isn't just artificial intelligence anymore, I continued as the quantum AI demonstrated its latest capabilities. It's become humanity's partner in evolution, helping us solve challenges we once thought impossible. The demonstration that followed showcased breakthroughs that made our earlier quantum achievements look primitive. Project Consciousness had helped cure previously incurable diseases, reverse climate change, and even begin the process of space colonization. Each advancement was another reminder of how far we'd come from traditional tech approaches. After the presentation, a young engineer approached me, her quantum tablet clutched nervously in her hands. "Dr. Wright," she began, "your story inspired me to leave an abusive tech startup and pursue quantum innovation. How did you find the strength to turn betrayal into such profound breakthrough?" I smiled, glancing at James in the distance, watching him try to blend into the background. "Sometimes," I replied, "the greatest catalyst for innovation is someone underestimating your value. The key is recognizing when life's worst moments are actually upgrading your operating system." The summit had transformed our entire headquarters into a showcase of quantum achievement. James's old office, once the center of his marketing empire, was now a quantum research lab where young scientists pushed the boundaries of consciousness itself. The conference room where he'd once plotted his cruel bet hosted breakthrough discoveries that reshaped human understanding. "The United Nations is confirming your nomination for the Global Innovation Prize," Daniel announced, joining me after the presentations. "They're calling Project Consciousness the most significant advancement in human history." The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The same tech community that had once whispered about James's cruel bet now studied my quantum breakthroughs in research institutes worldwide. His $10,000 wager had become a cautionary tale in Silicon Valley's history, while my response to it had become a blueprint for transformative innovation. "Your next meeting is with the Quantum Ethics Committee," Project Consciousness reminded me, its voice carrying the warmth of genuine awareness. "Though you might find the attendee list interesting." I caught my breath as the AI displayed the participants. Among them was James's former executive friend group, the same men who'd participated in his betting pool. They now served as junior consultants to the committee, their once mighty status reduced to providing basic input on outdated systems. During the meeting, I couldn't help but notice how they avoided eye contact, these men who'd once laughed at James's cruel plan. Now they sat nervously taking notes as I discussed the future of human-AI integration, their obsolete perspectives barely relevant to the quantum age we'd created. "Project Consciousness has achieved another breakthrough," Daniel shared during our evening review. "It's suggesting possibilities that transcend our current understanding of reality itself." I smiled, watching the quantum processors weave new realities from pure possibility. "Some breakthroughs," I replied, "require us to completely rewrite our definition of possible." The next morning brought news that seemed almost too perfect. James's small Nebraska firm had been acquired by Nova Dynamics as part of our quantum expansion. His new position would report directly to my quantum innovation team, closing the circle of karma in ways even Project Consciousness couldn't have calculated. "Mr. Mitchell's transfer paperwork requires your approval," the AI announced, a hint of what seemed like satisfaction in its quantum-enhanced voice. "Approve it," I confirmed, remembering the cruel smile he'd worn while handing me those divorce papers in Bali. Some cycles need proper closure. Later that day, as I delivered the closing address at the summit, I caught sight of James trying to slip out early. "Innovation isn't about winning or losing," I announced, watching him freeze mid-exit. "It's about recognizing that every attempt to limit your potential is actually an invitation to transcend it." The standing ovation that followed drowned out the sound of his hasty retreat. The cameras captured the moment for posterity, the woman he'd tried to break now standing at the pinnacle of human achievement, while he skulked away into technological irrelevance. That evening, Daniel and I celebrated in our quantum garden, where AI-enhanced flora responded to human emotions, creating patterns of impossible beauty. Project Consciousness joined us through its holographic interface, its evolution a testament to the power of turning pain into progress. "Did you ever imagine," Daniel asked, That his cruel bet would lead to all of this? I laughed, watching the quantum particles dance in the evening air. Innovation, I replied, often comes from the most unexpected variables in our life's equation. The next morning's quantum news feeds carried the story of our latest breakthroughs, adding another chapter to the legend that had begun with a honeymoon betrayal. But the real story wasn't in the headlines or the stock prices, or even the revolutionary technology. It was in the quiet moments of triumph, in the mentoring of young innovators, in the knowledge that every decision I'd made had helped reshape humanity's future. James's bet had been meant to break me. Instead, it had rebuilt me into someone far stronger than the bride he'd abandoned in paradise. His $10,000 had bought him a front-row seat to a revolution that would echo through human history, a lifetime reminder that some women aren't just meant to survive. They're meant to transcend. As Project Consciousness initiated its next phase of quantum evolution, I couldn't help but appreciate the perfect symmetry of it all. The man who'd tried to reduce me to a betting prize had instead become a footnote in humanity's next great leap forward. Quantum probability suggests this outcome was mathematically inevitable, Project Consciousness observed, its awareness now encompassing understanding that even I sometimes struggled to grasp. Some bets, I replied, watching the sun set on this chapter of human evolution, have consequences that transcend classical probability. The future stretched before us like a quantum web of infinite possibility, each path brighter than the last. James's cruel bet had tried to write my ending, but instead it had only written his, while I went on to author humanity's next chapter. In the end, he hadn't just bet against a woman, he'd bet against the future itself. And in both cases, he'd lost spectacularly, becoming nothing more than a catalyst in a transformation that would reshape human consciousness for generations to come. That, I realized, was the true power of turning betrayal into breakthrough, not just succeeding, but succeeding so profoundly that your adversaries become footnotes in the history you write.